Okay. We've spent the last 6 months in our self-converted van driving from Colorado to Alaska and back.
We've had a lot of time to reflect on the good and not so good of living full-time on the road in a van.
We're Katie and Joe. We self-converted our 2022 Ford Transit Clifford into our home on wheels. Last year, we drove 25,000 miles across North America, visiting 29 of the 63 U.S. national parks. We learned a lot about life on the road in that time.
Hi, Mom and Dad. Thanks for the jumper cable.
And we want to share that knowledge with you.
In today's video, we're going to talk about 10 pros and 10 cons about van life.
And also talk about a few things that are neither good nor bad, but important to note. Van life is not always a choice, and we fully respect people who have to live on the road out of necessity, whereas this has just been our tool to get to places, to be able to film and do our content creation jobs. But we fully respect and acknowledge that this is a life that people don't necessarily get to choose. So when you're hearing our pros and cons, that's our perspective, and we are in no way negating other people's experiences and whatever that may be.
Absolutely. That's a good one.
I just think it's important. Like, we know the privilege we have to have put in what we did to do this, to be on the road, and I don't want to ever come off as not acknowledging that privilege.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to start with the pros or the cons?
Let's start with the good, the pros.
In no particular order, but there will be a number tied to it, but it doesn't mean it's the number one pro. Coming in at number one for pros is this was the perfect vehicle to take us on our journey to visit all 63 U.S. national parks. Absolutely. It is powerful enough to get over the mountain passes. It's spacious enough for us to feel comfortable being in there for 2 or 3 days without going anywhere. And overall, it was the perfect choice for us at the time. Yeah. Way better than a Miata to go see the national parks. All right, coming in at number 2. Pro. While we didn't get a lot of time to socialize with other people on the road, when we did have the opportunity, van lifers and other people living the nomadic life can be so friendly. Super friendly. Yeah, like Katie said, we didn't spend a lot of time with people until we got onto the Alaska highway. And because we and 5 or 6 other couples were all doing the same trip at the same time, we saw them 8, 9, 10, so many other times throughout the next 5 or 6 weeks that we were in Alaska, basically doing the same route. And we actually have made some good friends with them. We saw Harry the hairless cat, so shout out to you. But it was really fun to be a part of the community, which we were moving really quickly, which we can get to later. We did not have a chance to socialize and just like camp up or whatever they make, like caravan with people. So when we did get the opportunity to actually talk and hang out with other people exploring like we are, it felt like a community, and it was really fun to get to experience that, and it was a huge pro. I got real jealous of everyone this winter who went down to Baja on their vans and trucks. We wish we did that. Next time, invite us, please. We have no friends. All right, coming in at number 3 with pros. This one, okay, we'll dive deeper into it, but for what we did, last year we visited 29 national parks, and like we mentioned, we drove all the way up to Alaska and back. This ended up being a very cost-effective option to do the trip that we were doing. Right. So if you take into account 6 months of hotels, rental cars, various flights to go see the 29 national parks that we did, it would have been exponentially more expensive than what we pay monthly payments for the van, insurance, gas, and all of the expenses we had on our truck. So big pro of it being cost effective. It would have been even more cost effective if we didn't self-convert and got like a less expensive van. Right. So it really is a way to potentially save money. And because we don't have rent elsewhere and it is our home, it cost effective. Right. Win-win. Extremely cost effective. Let's talk about pro number 4. Our van provides the basic amenities that we need to live. It is our home on wheels. We have a bathroom, we have a shower, we have a bed, we have a functioning kitchen. It's everything that we need wrapped up in one. If we had a different vehicle setup, there would be a lot more what we would say as outdoor time. By having our van, we don't have to get out to get into the driver's seat. We don't have to get out if we don't want to. We could spend days in the van, and at times we did because of weather, and be perfectly fine. So very, very big perk of having the Ford Transit, and then the build that we do have.
Yeah.
Pro. All right, coming in at number 5. Having a van and living the van life gave us extreme flexibility in when and where we went.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we did a normal car and a hotel route, if we had a reservation, we had to hit that reservation. With a van, if we want to stay someplace 4 or 5 days, we can stay that place 4 or 5 days. If we want to say, hey, we're going to leave early, we can do that because we're all confined. We have everything in one.
And that's just such a perk of van life that I guess people consider, but maybe we didn't. But we were at some places that ended up being a shorter trip than we expected. And we were able to move on.
Yeah.
We were able to see different things where, again, like you said, if we were stuck to a hotel or a more confined itinerary, we would not necessarily have had that flexibility. And compounded with that is our van life trip so far has been to national parks.
Right.
And going to those places takes a lot of planning to begin with, even with a van. If we had had to book out 8-9 months in advance to get a hotel room near a major national park in the peak summer times, it would have been a much bigger challenge and not quite as chill as we were able to make it with the van.
Yeah. Pro number 6. With our van, we bought a new van, we spec'd it out ourselves, but with the new van came the confidence that we're not going to have any major mechanical issues, knock on wood, while we're on our trip.
And if we did, we're still under the warranty.
Right, we're still under the warranty, and there's a Ford dealership basically everywhere.
They are everywhere. There is such a confidence having bought it ourselves.
Right.
It's a bigger expense, but we had never done van life before. We had never lived in our home that we also drove. So it was nice to have a little bit of, even if it was false confidence, a little
Right.
bit more confidence in the vehicle itself.
Absolutely. Pro number 7, and I like this one a lot. This one, I know it's not ranked, but this is up there. We were able to connect back to nature and not have a connection with material, like being materialistic, but instead be able to find joy in much smaller things. Back when we were doing the corporate grind, I was treating myself a little too much just to get through the pain of what I was doing, whether that was motorcycles or records or Legos or whatever it may be. Now I find same amount of joy by just opening up the rear doors in a nice morning, reading my book, drinking a cup of coffee. And the van allowed us to do that because we don't have the space for everything else.
It allows, but also forces.
Yeah.
So we can't be building Legos every week because there's nowhere to put them.
But like, to be fair, like I love Legos. And
we love Lego. Please
Yeah.
sponsor us, like us, find us. But it is, if we are forced to be a more simple existence and just be happy not only with what you have, but where you are. And I think that's just a good life lesson in general, and very grateful to be doing van life. And because I think everybody, at least in America, where it's very purchase heavy, capitalistic heavy, it's better to take a step back. It's true. It's true. It is such a huge pro of van life, of just a little bit simpler living.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, number 8. This is a big one, and we've discovered just how much of a role it played. We lived such a more active lifestyle in the 6 months of being on the road than we ever did at home, because every single day we were out hiking. We were going for a walk. We were exploring somewhere new. We were breathing in the fresh air, taking in the breathtaking views.
We
And we're
did
just so
we did
active.
650 miles of hiking last year.
Which is a ton.
That's a lot. It's a lot of hiking for people who like don't hike that much.
That
Like,
aren't super big outdoorsy people. It was, again, being forced out into nature, because you don't necessarily want to sit in the van all of the time.
Right.
So you're
get-
pushed outside more.
you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
100%.
Yeah, like we never let weather stop us from doing whatever we wanted that day. Like we had to put on an extra sweater, we put on an extra sweater. We need to do a rain jacket, we put on a rain jacket.
The only thing that stopped us was our fear of bears, but we got over that pretty quick.
I still have a fear of bears. I'm constantly, if you see me, still looking around for bears.
But we were more active, and I think that's a huge, huge perk.
Absolutely.
Number 9, we were able to bring all of our filming equipment with us because we had the space in the van and didn't have to worry about checking luggage, fitting things in, like narrowing down. We were able to bring everything we wanted and have it at our fingertips, which helps us bring better content to you. Be able to film more interesting angles, take better pictures. Having the space to lug it all in the van, huge plus.
Well, this is not a Miata slander channel. That's my other channel. You couldn't have done that with that car.
Okay, final one. I'll lead it off. This will be the number 1, number 10 pro. Is we were forced to get really comfortable with each other. This is a very small space, and while we lived in a small apartment in New York, this is significantly smaller. 24/7 on the road, we had to get comfortable with each other, and we're still together, going strong.
Anyway, now it's just Joe on the go. No, we've always been really tight since we first met each other, and she's been able to put up with everything that I do and my dumb jokes and my smelly farts, and the van just amplifies all of that.
Yeah, any issue you have is like exponentially a bigger issue.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. I can't go somewhere and close a door and...
Yeah. There's nowhere to hide. Like if one of us had too much lactose and was suffering the consequences of that,
we both suffer the consequences of that.
The other person could hold figgy tips while it's happening. We're so tight in that van. So we got comfortable with each other. Yeah. More so than we already were. And I really do see that as a pro. Just to know that we can handle each other at our highs and lows in a confined space and come out stronger than ever is a huge pro.
Agreed. So. Love you.
It's not Joe on the go. It's Woo on the go.
It's Woo on the go. I have the paperwork now, so everyone pay attention. This is the list of 10 cons that are in no particular order, but we are going to assign a number to them so we remember the list. Number 1. It's really hard to be full-time content creators while also exploring full-time. Then that's why we have a huge backlog, like 12 terabytes of content that we're still getting through.
Yeah, I think there are people who live van life just as van lifers. They're not taking photos, they're not making videos, so they're able to live slow and simply. And we had a hard time doing either of those because we were constantly filming so that we could bring videos to our channel, bring content to our other socials. And we came to a point on the road where we were just like, we're gonna film and we're not even gonna worry about editing or any of that. And since hitting our midpoint of our road trip, we've now just been playing catch up with all of that and learning those lessons that like our videos could have been stronger if we had gone through those park by park, but we didn't give us the time frame to do that. So van life is hard as a content creator.
Yeah.
So definite con.
Number 2, we went way too fast and never got to enjoy the time.
There it is.
There it is. There's a rule in van life and RVing called like 333 or 444 where you drive 4 hours, you get in by 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you stay for 4 days. 222, 333, 5, whatever it is. We never did that. The only time that we camped in the same campsite more than once was when we were in Alaska. We stayed at the Cabela's Bass Pro Shop parking lot for like 5 days until they kicked us out.
Yeah, so we broke that rule and paid for it. Like we were tired because we were creating content, we were hiking all day, and then sometimes at night we were driving 3-4 hours after that hike, and it was just constantly on the move. And I think that's one of our biggest van life cons, or at least biggest lessons, because we did that to ourselves by having certain time restraints. Our biggest suggestion, because that was a huge con for us, is to follow that rule, to slow down, to stay in a place much longer and just enjoy the slow life that we wanted with van life, but set ourselves up for failure in being able to do it because of the time pressure we put on ourselves.
Yeah, so we're rebranding from Katie and Joe on the go to Katie and Joe on the slow. Con number 3. While the van gives a lot of freedom, there's also a lot of fear. Our entire life is in this van. Everything we own is in this van. And if someone stole it, someone broke into it.
It was a constant anxiety. When we were on a hike, like, it was super humorous to be like, oh, we can see Clifford down in the parking lot and we're like 10 miles away. But it was also a peace of mind, because if someone drove off with this is our home. It has all of our possessions in it, and it would have been horrible.
Yeah.
But the same anxiety goes for just driving it. Like, sometimes I would get anxiety of like, do we really need to like run this errand? Because by getting out on the roads, I don't trust anyone else. It's our home.
Yeah.
And you driving your home is very stressful.
Very stressful.
All right, con number 4, and this is something that other people who do van life and have been on YouTube have said before, and then we full on experienced it, is the stress of trying to find a safe and legal place to camp for the night. This was further amplified by the pace we were going, because we rarely spent the same night or more than one night in the same location. So every single day there was worry and stress of finding somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
And we spent about 70% of our nights in free locations, whether that be BLM, Walmart, Love's. Those things are also hard to plan. So we were, again, coming down off of a 10-mile hike, needing to drive 2 hours and then find somewhere to sleep. And on one occasion, the place we had put in the map, we showed up and got bad vibes.
It was bad vibes. Bad vibes all around. I refused to sleep there.
It was so uncomfortable, and you could just feel like the energy was off. So we ended up driving 2 additional hours in the dark to find somewhere else to sleep for the night. And I think that starts to really take a mental toll of not having that certainty. When you live at home, you have a home to go home. Like, you know where you're sleeping, you have a bed.
Right.
And while we had a bed, we didn't always know where it would be parked. And
Right.
that was a big mental hurdle every single day, and just another thing to consider.
Con number 5, distance from family and friends. We knew this was going to be an issue when we set out on our trip, but I don't think we knew it was going to affect us as much as it did.
We are both really close with our families, so
Except for Nina.
so not being, I mean, right now we're in the same city and same state. So not being able to go to a family dinner, missing milestones, birthdays, stuff like that was really hard. And I don't know how other full-time travel content creators do without seeing their family as frequently as we make an effort to.
Yeah.
And we started to plan trips with them. My family did 2 national parks with us. Your mom did 1 national park and brought the woo so we could see her. And I think we knew it would be hard to be away from them, but we didn't realize when you start missing milestone moments, how hard that really is. Especially, we're just so close with them.
Yeah. If you don't like your family or friends, like, it's fucking church.
Travel content creators,
Yeah.
the way to go. Con number 6. Living on the road means that there's limited access to consistent healthcare. Mainly because the way the US healthcare system works, everyone outside of your state is usually out of network unless it is an emergency situation. So we put off, for those 6 months on the road, trips to the dentist, general practitioner visits. If we had like something that felt off within ourselves, we had to wait until we made our way back to Colorado, which I 100% know and acknowledge is not smart. I tend to like to be ahead of things when it comes to health and being able to address things in the moment instead of coming back, making a doctor's appointment and having a laundry list of things to discuss with the doctor, to where you're not like isolating, looking at different things. It's like you may have missed something. And that was stressful. And I already have a little bit of health anxiety having gone through stuff previously. That I saw a little mark on my skin, and I've had skin cancer previously, and it's like, I know how dangerous it is to wait on those things. And then we did wait. So turns out no issues, but it was something that would gnaw in my brain.
We would think about it.
Of like, yeah, it would really be nice to go be seen for this, but can't afford the trip to the ER for like, this is kind of suspicious, or my tummy hurts.
It's the milk. Con number 7, which is more of my mistake. We thought we were self-sufficient in our van because we built it out to be our lovely van, like our home on wheels, until we killed our van battery, and were unable to start our van. We had to flag someone down to come and give us a jump. And it happened again a few weeks later.
It wasn't even a few weeks, it was a few days later.
A few days later. When you're out in the van and you're out in the middle of nowhere, you need to be fully self-sufficient. You can't get stuck. You can't have battery issues. You can't do whatever it may be. Everything needs to have a second and a third solution to fix your issue. So we found that, and we will put a link down below of what it is. But like, we have a lithium battery pack that we could charge.
It's a jump box.
Yeah, it's like a jump box.
And we discovered that by getting jumped in a remote parking lot in Alaska. And I think one of our biggest, like, we're so grateful moments is that both times that we killed the van battery overnight, we were in places where we were able to flag people to help us. Had we been, like we had discussed on those nights, further into the forest, it would have been an absolute nightmare trying to get help.
Yeah.
So having the little jump box, which is linked below, while expensive, is absolutely worth its weight in gold. And just being mindful of that, because we could have been in a pretty scary situation, especially when there's very little service and bears in Alaska.
A lot of bears. We decided to relocate because we were realizing that it was getting really hot and really bright outside. So once again, pro of the van.
Yeah, pro, we have a van to go into, but we're on cons. So what's our next con?
Con, city driving. I don't know how it's possible, but people don't see a 25-foot long red van when we're driving, and people try to merge into us all the time. So when we were driving through Los Angeles or into like Vancouver, it was extremely stressful, and driving a car of this size isn't easy.
It's not even just the size, it's the worry that it's our home. And we've mentioned this in a lot of these cons of, if something happens, if someone hits us, we are out of a home and a vehicle. So it's just, the stress is so high. I'm a horrible passenger princess. I grab onto things, I gasp. I do. I admit it. It's not my best quality, but city driving is so stressful and big con.
Big con.
All right, moving on to our next con. We don't always wake up to a beautiful #van life view.
Yeah, people who say that and like publish that on social media, like every once in a while you're gonna get a really pretty campsite. Like, there's no denying that. Like, when we were up in Alaska, most of our campsites were stunning.
We've stayed in some really beautiful places, but we've also stayed in Walmart, Love's, Bass Pro Shop. Less pretty campsites.
Yeah, like when you pull into your spot and someone pulls in an hour later and they are mere inches away from your door, and then they decide to start chain smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is one of the cons of living in van life.
It's a reality. Yeah, it's not always going to be idyllic. It is. We still love it, but it has to be mentioned as a con.
Yeah.
All right, our final con, and you wouldn't know because we've made it really pretty, is, again, it's not always idyllic. This van gets dirty, and it's just the reality of living in it. We were moving stuff from the bed to the couch to the countertop, back to the bed, constantly. And while we have storage and places for things to go, it wasn't realistic to have the cameras in their camera cases in the bench. We needed access to them. So now they're living on the bed, tucked under the covers, so they're safe. It got messy a lot, and no matter how hard we tried, being constantly on the move meant we didn't have like a minute to put everything back in its place. It's easier, throw it on the bed.
Right.
Throw it on the floor.
Especially camera equipment, because like we always want to have a camera ready in case like there's a bear or a moose or
Something
we want to like talk about something. Yeah. Like, we need to have camera equipment out.
Yeah. So con, it doesn't always look like social media portrays it. Sometimes it looks like this. Now we're going to get into things that aren't necessarily pros, aren't necessarily cons, but are the reality of living van life. A big one, that is, I guess, could be an us problem, but let us know in the comments if it is also a you problem, is our diet. We did not necessarily eat bad. We were rarely going to fast food, but more often than not, we were having a bagged salad or a salami sandwich for dinner. So we weren't having vegetables every night.
No.
And we see people cook beautiful van life meals, but our situation, it didn't work. We were pulling into a campsite at 9 p.m., exhausted, easier to just make a quick salad.
And I think that also goes back to just our pace on the road and what we set off to do. If we set off to just have this as a home, we could go park it somewhere, camp for a week, and take the time to
make the meals.
To make those van life meals.
Yeah. So our diet definitely suffered, and we were so thankful to have a real kitchen when we came back to visit to Colorado.
But when we did get back to Colorado, we were looking skinny.
All right, so another gray area worth noting is that we kind of hinted at this. While van life can be a cheaper option, this van and how we are living it is not cheap. What we pay for the monthly payments for the van, plus insurance, plus gas, is within about $100 of what the home mortgage used to be.
Right.
So yes, we could have bought a used cheap van, paid it in cash, and not had those expenses. But the reality for us is this is kind of an expensive way to live.
Right. Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap. And that's, again, why it's a gray area, because it's kind of an us problem, but it is something to consider that it's not this free way to live. There are expenses everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
We could have gone to Thailand and lived like kings for much cheaper.
Facts. All right. Next gray area. We have internet. Our internet functions fantastic. It works.
Yeah.
We never had an issue with it, but we did more frequently find ourselves in a coffee shop to use their internet to upload videos, to perform the content creator social media side of what we were doing on the road. And that was something I don't think we expected. We built the van to be this is our office. We won't have to go in there.
Right.
And while it could function like that, the reality on the road was we spent a lot of time in coffee shops.
Yeah, we had a 300 gigabyte monthly upload. As a package, and we quickly realized how fast 300 gigabytes goes.
Especially when we didn't realize that our phones were doing full iCloud backups and eating away all of our internet.
Yeah.
Another gray area, which again is an us problem, maybe not a you problem, is we wanted this van life to be a way to live more simply. And while we did also overpack significantly. Again, you don't know what you don't know. We packed every single thing we would need for 6 months on the road as if grocery stores, Walmarts, and Targets don't exist. We brought so many extra rolls of toilet paper, paper towels, everything on top of an extensive wardrobe we never used. Yeah. Fortunately, about a month into the trip, we were able to do a big purge in California, and we still had overpacked.
Yeah.
So we purged again when we got to Washington and still have overpacked. We realized you don't need as much stuff as you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Another gray area, a thing we've hinted at and kind of discussed already, is that van life in the ideal world is slower, a way to unplug from all of the chaos that is regular life. But by being content creators, we didn't really have that option.
Yeah, you can't really unplug when you need to be plugged in to do your job.
Yeah. So while we did live those little bits of that slow, calm van life, we were constantly plugged in on our phones more often than I think we would have liked, on some sort of device constantly. And that's just kind of a negative part of being a content creator, and being able to bring videos and content to our audience means that we don't necessarily get to have those perfect van life days.
Right. This is our final gray area point. Building a van is expensive. Way more expensive than we thought it would have been by... Gosh, I don't even want to know how much.
Significantly, and it started to add up in ways we didn't even realize until it was over. It was we could have done this trip in something a lot less than what we put into this.
Right.
We could have done it in a car with a tent on top, a trailer. There's so many options. And the reason this is a gray area is because it's a nuts problem. We invested heavily in the self-conversion and getting the high-end bells and whistles for this to be our home. And it's just really expensive.
Yeah.
And that kind of trickles into everything else of the stress of, like, it's our home, but it's also our really expensive home. So the traffic driving, the parking, being away from it, all of those things hurt more knowing how much we put in to make the conversion.
Yeah. And like, well, there are other options, like Katie mentioned, the tent on the roof or a small trailer or whatever, maybe, or buying an RV from a company like Winnebago or something like that. Like, we are still $100+ grand cheaper than buying something similar from Winnebago.
A comparable build to what we did would be like $100 grand more expensive than what we put into it.
Yeah.
But we also could have got an older van that someone else had converted and got it on the used market for less than what we put in. So it's just one of those van life lessons, and like the criticisms you could see in the, like sometimes in the comments of like, you don't have to live that way. You don't have to go expensive. You don't have to self-convert. There are so many ways to get out and live life on the road that don't have to be what we did.
Right. And that is our video. 10 pros, 10 cons, and a smattering of
everything else
that we wanted to talk about our van life experience over the last 6 months. If you have questions, if you have comments, leave them below. We have a bunch of other videos about van life. We have a bunch of other blog posts about van life. Maybe something you're interested in we've already discussed. But
check it out. And then just let us know in the comments. We're more than happy to discuss our experience on the road and give insight if you're thinking of doing it or just want to know. Curious. Yeah. Hit that like button. Because we're awesome. Hit that subscribe button. Stick around because we still have a ton more national parks, a ton more life to live in this van, and we're going to bring it all to you. So stick around, and we're happy to have you.
Okay, bye.
All right, this is a bonus con because it's something when we were prepping for this video, it hadn't happened yet and we hadn't noticed. Not everyone approves of van life, is okay with it. And we had an experience this morning when we got in the van to come out and film this. Someone had egged our van in the neighborhood, which was unexpected and like felt like a violation.
Yeah.
Like someone egged our home because they did not like that our van was there. And for that being like a nice van, I can only imagine what other people may go through with a van that may not be as aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
And just to see that happen to us was just, it was shocking.
Yeah.
When it hurt.
It was frustrating because like we're having conversations with the HOA about like this isn't like an RV because like this is our only vehicle. And obviously someone said that's not a valid excuse. We're gonna egg your van.
Yeah. So it's just, it was a con. Not everyone's okay with it. You can't always park in places, which we've discovered when visiting his mom. It's hard. And I could only imagine how much harder it would be in a less aesthetic looking van.
Yeah.
So, eggs.
Another con of our van build is that we don't have a place for shoes. We have normal shoes, we have walking shoes, we have hiking boots, we have probably 3 or 4 pairs of shoes each that we use within a week. And there's no place to store them, and we realized that we just ended up kind of tossing them in the shower basin and pulling them out when we needed to.
Yeah, so if we were to build again, we would definitely consider a designated space to put shoes, because you said in a week, in a day, we were going through 3 different types of shoes.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense to put them away in one of our current storage things. It's like a specific shoe solution 100% needs to be considered.
Specific shoe solution. Say that 10 times fast.
This was, I can't, tongue twisters. So I'll tee you up.
Okay.
Sit back down.
Sports!
Bug.
Big bug.
Con. Bugs.
Bug.